excited to be here and thrilled to have Lara here with us. Lara is the showrunner from Odd Mom Out, and prior to that, led development at Bravo for many years. And prior to that, actually debuted a short film at Sundance called Unsung Heroes. And so today we're going to be talking about storytelling and authenticity, but before we do that, we wanted to share a little clip of Odd Mom Out.
Hi. You and I had a hard moment. The woman doused you in fruit punch. Women need to stick together. It's what I am calling sheetonism.
You mean feminism?
Ew, no, I waxed down there. Yeah.
I really regret not getting new braces. It's not too late, though. You know, everyone at the club is doing Invisalign.
Thank you, Mom. What is the deal with Hamilton? It's like Frozen for adults.
No! I was shamed by a patient because I hadn't seen it. She had third-degree burns all over her body, but she felt really bad for me.
Simone, you have a dog.
It's a therapy dog to help cure my narcissism. I was diagnosed in June.
Well, I'm glad you're getting help.
Who's helping me think about the needs of others?
Holy Neptune's nutsack! Has anyone's nipple ever exploded? Oh, look, it's my boobs.
Oh, whoa, look at this. This is magic. We're in the Jetsons.
This is the holiest day of the year. Turn that goddamn thing off. Mom!
Starving.
You know you don't have to fast.
We always fast on Yom Kips. I've been doing it since I had feathered bangs at my bat mitzvah.
So, Lara knows this now because I've been obsessed since I've met her. But I'm a huge fan of Odd Mom Out, and I think from my perspective, whether you're a mom or not, there's a relatability, and whether, quite frankly, you're from New York or not, there's a relatability and a humor that you can kind of relate to. And from our perspective, that just taps right into the authenticity of the storytelling, and in particular of Jill Kargman, who this is based on. And so when we were talking about what we would chat in front of this nice warm fire, which is making me sweat, was, you know, what can brands take away from the authenticity that you experience on Odd Mom Out, and how you actually go about doing that, and anything you can share from your experience with telling that story that the room can relate to just from a storytelling perspective overall.
Sure, and I think you can see in that 90-second clip, Jill is not afraid to say whatever she wants to say. She is extremely outspoken, and at Bravo, authenticity was always something we were looking for, and certainly something unexpected, a unique point of view that was strong and that was unapologetic. And when Jill actually first came in, she was pitching a morning talk show called, sorry about this, Shut the Fuck Up. And basically, it was her in her underpants after her kids had already gone to school, and she's, you know, eating the soggy cereal out of her kids' cereal bowls, basically appealing to other moms in a similar situation. And I was like, we don't program the mornings, but you're so funny, and you have such an amazing take on the world. What else can we do with you? And then she came back in pitching a late night talk show, and I was like, yeah, the EVP of our network actually has a late night talk show, so I don't see that going anywhere. But we actually went back to her and said, would you ever consider doing a Curb Your Enthusiasm type show based on your own life? And that was specifically because of what you're saying about authenticity, and that she's never afraid to have a very unique and sometimes divisive point of view. But I think that's the fun with that show, and the challenge is no matter what scenes we're putting her in, they're always very funny, but even if we do like a crazy big musical number, there's still an emotional authenticity to it. And hopefully that's what you feel when you're watching it in terms of that relatability.
So, yeah, and I think when we're thinking about, as brands trying to create content, you know, how do we tap into that and take risks? At the NBCU Content Studio, we're here to help brands tell an authentic narrative by tapping into the storytellers that we have across our portfolio. But when you do that, it's really a handshake and a hug relationship that you have to have with the storyteller, because the brand needs to know what they want to say about themselves and actually have a point of view. How did you identify, as you moved into the script writing process, how did you start to overcome some concerns you may have had with risks with the audience and really ensuring that that point of view that Jill had came through?
I mean, that's something that we're still struggling with. I think we've alienated every potential group that we have, that we could have. I think we're very equal opportunity in that way. Jill is, she will say her mind about anything. I think the only group we hadn't pinpointed was diabetics, so of course we're gonna make fun of them in season 3. But I think it's about, you can't appeal to everyone all of the time. I think especially on the eve of this inauguration, we are living in a moment where the country feels more divisive than it has in a while, and I think it is just about being true to your messaging and who you are, and also being kind in it. Jill is never, she definitely makes fun of things, but it's always coming from a place of appreciation. In much the same way, actually, that Andy Cohen had this incredible way of really taking all of the talent, the Bravo talent, to task, but always coming at it for almost like a fangirl would. So he could play both a judge and also celebrate them at the same time.
Great. So that's Odd Mom Out. Now, prior to Odd Mom Out, you were running development for Bravo. So if you put that hat back on, as a creative executive, what are you seeing, I guess, as the biggest challenges to break through from an authenticity standpoint today?
I think breaking through is the biggest challenge. There's just so much content. I actually think breaking through is almost impossible now, just from the sheer numbers of it. But what you want to do is you want to talk to even one person. If you can speak to one person, they'll definitely want to share that thing with someone else. I think that success, to me right now, is more a metric of shareability than it is even actual reach. Because if you are motivating someone to say, hey, you got to check this thing out, then you know that you've really stood out from the pack of options.
Is there any content that you're seeing now that you love, that you wish you could kind of tap into?
Branded content or just period?
Both.
The best piece of branded content I've ever seen was last year. Spike Jonze did a short film for Kenzo. Do you guys remember this one? They were launching a new fragrance, and it's just this girl dancing with these crazy, spasmodic movements and this weird face in an incredible evening gown at Alice Tully Hall. And it was just a really phenomenal video that I did share with a bunch of people. And I didn't know Kenzo had a fragrance, so it did tell me that. I'm not gonna buy it, but I still think that brand is cooler now. And should I ever be in the market for one, then maybe I would be more inclined. So to me, that was a great example of branded content. And then I guess, yeah, I'll leave it at that for now.
And we were talking about risk-taking before, something that I think is relevant if you think about putting yourself out there as a brand to take a risk in creating content that really, delivers your point of view, and you don't cave on what you're trying to communicate. You kind of have to take that into your own personal life too and live that mantra. And you are doing that currently, right?
Yeah, I was at Bravo 8.5 years, and it was an amazing job. I think those were the smartest people I ever had a chance to work with. But when this opportunity came up to show on Odd Mom Out, I barreled through that door. It was open this much, and I was like, here we go! And I don't really know what's going to happen after this, but it's been an amazing opportunity already. And that has been, I think, more authentic to myself.
You got to live it to do it.
We should have a drinking game with that word, authentic. I feel like I'm like halfway drunk already.
A few hours from now, we'll be there. And so my last question is about platforms. So obviously, programming for every platform and thinking about the stories that you tell and how you program for a platform is paramount to everything that we all do, because there's a real shame in creating a beautiful piece of content and no one's seeing it. How do you think about, going back to Odd Mom Out now, how do you think about taking the experience that fans have with Odd Mom Out from the TV show to beyond the TV show, to social platforms, to other areas to program?
I mean, I think we actually, in terms of the branded content that was in Odd Mom Out last season, we were very lucky in that both of those storylines, you saw a little clip of Invisalign and also the Chrysler Pacifica, that was the Weber family car. We were able to have very organic storylines in there, which I worked out very, very nicely. But I think when we start programming for other platforms and figuring out what those ancillary assets can look like, honestly, we do better when we stop being so slavish to the narrative that you're seeing linearly. I think usually when you're trying to just siphon off of the TV show, you get watered down content that if it was great, it would be in the TV show. So one of the best things that I think we did socially for Odd Mom Out was we did a series of 1950s fake commercials, almost like PSAs, where Jill is all dressed up as if she's at a Tupperware party, and doing these like very, very funny, completely mocking of 1950s mothering styles, injecting her own humor in that. And they just were, they didn't say, here's what the show is about. They didn't say, you know, they didn't explain, they didn't introduce the world or any of the other characters. We just traded on the strength of her humor. And it was literally set in the 1950s. That has nothing to do with our show. But we just thought, if that's compelling enough, maybe you'll check out her other stuff.
And so when you think about social, how do you think about measurement of what success is? I know you mentioned shareability. You know, what does a like mean versus a comment, right? Versus a share in your world?
Well,
or are you still trying to figure it out like the rest of us?
I am still trying to figure it out. I mean, what I do know is that you can buy likes, but you can't buy passion. So I think that you can say that you had a really successful campaign because you got 12.5 million hits or whatever, but if it didn't ultimately compel someone to want to learn more about your brand or your product or that story, then it feels a little Emperor's New Clothes-y to me.
All right.
I feel like that might have been an unpopular thing to say, but.
Not at all. All right, well, I think our time is just about up, so thank you for having us up here.
Are there any questions? We have like 45 more seconds. Anybody have a question? No. All right.
Well, thanks, guys.
Thank you.